So you said WrestleMania, and you actually debuted at WrestleMania 12, not in the ring, but in
No,
the backstage. And I'll
right,
always remember it
right.
because it was one of my first videotapes, and Todd Pettingill is introducing you, and he calls you Marc Mero. And were you just like, what?
It was the whole thing. I got to tell you, going from a fun character that you could act any way and people would accept it, to this character that I remember having the creative meeting and they had this wild man, Marc Mero, and it was like, what is a wild man? I remember Vince asked me if I could do like a Tarzan yell, like, and I said to him, I go, Vince, I don't got a very strong voice. I don't think I can do that. I mean, what am I, from the jungle? I mean, who am I, So I never really connected with it. The fans never really connected with it. And of course, you're walking out there with this beautiful girl who the fans love. So it was just a natural for us to have that animosity and the jealousy and all that, which turned out to be a great storyline.
It's funny, actually, you mentioned because you were paired up with Triple H straight away. And did you, well, actually, number one, how was he to work with and how was he sort of behind the scenes? Was he actually quite quiet or was he always hanging around with Sean or did you not talk to him much backstage?
Well,
And
look,
also, do you realize you've probably beaten him more than anybody else in history?
yeah, when I really think about it, I probably wrestled him more than anybody else in history because we were in WCW as John Paul Levesque and Johnny B.
Yeah.
Bad. Of course, I beat him every night, and then of course, then going over to WWE. But he did get his first championship belt was from me. Was the Intercontinental belt was his first title win, and you know what? I got to tell you, if I could. I mean, we were never friends, like in the business. We cordial with each other, but we never hung out or anything. But if I could ever say anything to Triple H is thank you, man. I learned so much from that guy. He is an unbelievable worker. I mean, he really studies he studies the game. He studies matches, and I became a better wrestler because I got to wrestle him so much. There was three guys that I really wrestled a lot, and if anybody could hear these names, I mean, number one, Triple H, number two, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and number three was Diamond Dallas Page. Three guys that I wrestled probably maybe a couple hundred times each, that what a blessing to work with guys like that, And then there was guys where it was just a night off, like, oh my gosh, Eddie Guerrero, a night off, like just fun. Ric Flair, my gosh, his whole match. You know what I mean? It was like another fun guy to work with, and Arn Anderson. Oh my gosh, I was blessed to wrestle some of the greatest.
Do you know one person you were not blessed to wrestle, and he was one of the greatest, Mr. Perfect? Do you remember maybe the storyline that it was?
I did wrestle Mr. Perfect.
Oh, did you wrestle him? I
Yes,
thought
we
I thought you never
we
wrestled him.
wrestled in when Hulk Hogan started this program called XWF. He
Of
went there
course you
and I got
did.
to wrestle him, and he was another guy a night off. I mean, that was the only time we wrestled was that one time, but he was smooth, man. That guy was just a smooth wrestler. I tell you, some of the greatest guys I ever worked with were guys like that. Like when I wrestled Eddie Guerrero, we did a match that went time limit draw or something. When I was a world television champion, and I did some moves in that match that I've never even done before. And it was because Eddie would say, "Oh no, you can do this," and he'd show it to me backstage, like the sweep of a leg or whatever it would be. And I said, "Okay, I mean, I'll try it." We're doing it on live TV, it wasn't like we could cut and paste or something. It was like live television. So it was man, just another one. I love that guy, man. That was probably one of the hardest guys that when I lost Eddie, he was probably one of the hardest friends I lost in the business.
So do you remember back in '96 because Mr. Perfect was getting aligned with Triple H, or he's probably still Hunter Helmsley at this point,
Right.
and if memory serves me correctly, it was on an episode of Raw. Mr. Perfect turns on you, costs you the Intercontinental Championship, gives it
Yes.
to Triple H. Do you remember what the plans might have been going forward? Were you going to wrestle Triple H? Were you going to wrestle Kurt, or both of them? Do you remember the initial plans before Kurt jumps to WCW like a
Well,
week later?
Triple H and I were together for a long time. And of course, after that, we went to all the house shows wrestling each other every single night because it was me chasing the belt, and then, and he, it's the old slip on the banana peel, and he'd walk away with the belt every night whether there's disqualification or something that happened. Mr. Perfect's interference or something. So it was like I beat him up the whole match and look like I'm going to win, and then something happens where he walks away and still retains the belt. So we stayed together for quite a while, even after he did win the belt. And then I had a triple threat match with him, Goldust, and myself, and that's where I blew out my knee and needed reconstructive surgery, and it led to 8 months being off while I was healing from that.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Enough is enough! Booty poo candy ass! I had him writhing in pain from my sharpshooter. Rocky! I am not a nugget! Stick him straight up your candy ass! I kicked your leg out of your leg. The Rock has come!